So y'all know next year's the presidential election, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right now they're looking for the Democratic candidates. So there's a whole bunch of candidates out right now, and one of them is named Kamala Harris. Right? She's an African American woman. And I didn't watch the debates or anything, but I was just going through, Yahoo News, and there was the famous TV actress, the star of Grey's Anatomy, and she wrote a tweet about her. She was saying that she was too overly confident, and she thinks that she's her only competition, right? She got a lot of backlash about that, saying that was racist because she was saying that about a black woman was being too overconfident. And I was thinking to myself, is how, and what point is that racist? Because she said that about a black woman?
Just because a Caucasian woman is calling an African American female overconfident at something that is...
Or something that...
Just something in general.
Because it's just something that African Americans, presidential, not many of them are trying to do, I guess. That's why people are kind of blowing it, more than it is, I guess.
They're definitely blowing it out of the water because of that. I mean, like I said before, we're in 2019. I don't see why an African American woman wouldn't be or couldn't be a president. Key points for her presidential election are in the betterment of the country. I don't see why not.
I think the question is what written on the internet, are we taking it out of context? Because we've seen it not just with that, but we saw with the Roseanne Barr thing, and we've seen it with several things where, people are going crazy off of what is said off of the internet. We don't really know where that's coming from, what the actual person's viewpoint was, just because you're reading, straight text. So are we taking what's put on social media completely out of context?
Yes.
Everyone can read it different and mean something completely different to every single one of us. So it's hard to kind of express that type of emotion on, text or tweet or, especially if you don't have a chance to kind of explain yourself, explain why. So I can see, that getting misconstrued and blown out of proportion.
I just think it's crazy because, that's not, a crazy... if I would have read that comment, I would have never thought, racism at all, just because we could call athletes that all the time. There's athletes that are super overconfident, and I'm like, oh, that guy's cocky, right? I'm not a huge fan of him.
Or he didn't deserve that contract. Or,
yeah, and so I don't understand why, in this certain circumstance, it's taken out of proportion. I saw a video the other day, and it was titled Watch Till the End, right? So I'm sitting there watching it, waiting for it to happen, right? And it's raining, okay? And they're on some kind of street, and there's a puddle in the street. What literally looks like just like a puddle, okay? And there's a bunch of kids jumping in the air and just slamming into this puddle, right? Doing cannonballs, face plants. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, somebody is about to break their arm or something, right? Because I watched the whole entire thing and I noticed nothing. I was like, what the heck? It's okay. And so this video it was pretty much a bunch of black kids jumping up and just slamming into this puddle, right? And I'm thinking to myself, they're gonna break something. Out of nowhere, at one point in the video, there's just a few seconds, a white kid comes up, does the exact same thing, right? I watched a video and did not think a single thing of it, right? I'm waiting for somebody, and in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, how are they doing this? This is a puddle. How are you guys just face planting into this puddle and not
breaking something?
Yeah, breaking something. And I go to the comments, and they're commenting on the fact that there was just one white kid with them. That was the watch till the end. That was the big deal, was that there was one white kid in the midst of would look probably a neighborhood of little black kids. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, that's what we derived from that video. That's what came from this video, right? Is the fact that it was just crazy that what a white kid was hanging out with. I didn't get it. And it's crazy how it just seems like social media, that's just where we want to go all the time. And just it's racist, it's racism, it's racist. It could just be a comment, or in the video case, it was just a bunch of kids jumping into a puddle, and I was still blown away on how they're jumping into a puddle and not breaking a leg. It was crazy to me, and that's interesting to me.
I don't even think it's just with racism. I mean, it just seems like anyone, especially celebrities, they put out a certain comment, a certain statement, and everyone on there has to, how do I say it, not necessarily flip the script on them, but putting deeper meaning on what they're saying and put a negative spin on it. When I saw that tweet, when I saw the news, it's Okay, it just means she's just probably just really strong. She just seems like a really strong lady. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. But yet people have to put a negative spin on it. And this lady, this TV actress, she's done nothing wrong. She hasn't done anything racist in her life. I haven't seen anything about the news about her being racist, except for this just one simple sentence. And it blows my mind. And and that's stuff I don't get.
It's almost like the people on the internet, we're just waiting to catch somebody failing. Like, that's it. Like, we just want to see somebody tweet something outlandish so that we can just, like, attack them for.
Yeah.
And that's just so crazy to me because, we'll sit down at a comedy show and watch the raunchiest and the dirtiest comedy ever and have them cross every single line. Hollywood movies, too, right? They cross every line imaginable. But God forbid anybody posts anything on social media as far as a tweet, and people will go psycho over it.
Yeah, and you were talking about like the Roseanne Barr thing, which I mean it was kind of wrong. It was wrong, but she's a comedian. She's known for being raunchy, and it's like that was kind of wrong what they did to her. Like I know it's been happening a lot lately when people put stuff out on social media. Like okay, well this is too wrong. We have to look good as the network and cut ties with it. But what do you expect? You start a show with Roseanne Barr. Okay, we've known her for years. We know what her comedy is like. We know her style is like. And you're just going to do this and just completely just like, oh, we're done with you. I didn't think that was really right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like I said, what we deem acceptable and what we deem not, because we go watch Daniel Tosh do his comedy and he crosses every single line like imaginable, and nobody says anything. Like it's like just like the Kevin Hart thing that happened when he was supposed to host the
Oscars.
The Oscars? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy too. Something that happened, 7-8 years ago that we want to bring up and like just beat him up for, when essentially it was a joke, and whatever he said at the time was a joke. And we all love Kevin Hart for pushing boundaries and for being funny and for laughing at things that sometimes we just can't laugh at. And it's crazy how we will attack somebody if they cross the line. I guess we uphold social media at some certain standard that we don't uphold real life on. Social media, we all have to be professional for some reason and no jokes, and we all have to be serious, and we all have to 100% mean what we're posting. But in Hollywood movies and in comedy shows, no, we can just blow that out of proportion. We don't need any kind of line to that. That's just very hypocritical and weird to me.
It's definitely hypocritical, but it also has to do with the fact that because you have that shelter of, hey, this is a joke. A lot of comedians, and I know the whole Kevin Hart situation, it kind of contradicts you on that because he did it as a comedian. He did it. Everybody feels like because they're comedians, they're gonna get away with it. It's the whole going back to, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. Don't worry about it. He doesn't really mean it, and this type of situation. When you start branching out, like the Roseanne Barr situation, when you start branching out to not just being a comedian, but being on live television, on a sitcom or anything like that, I feel like they treat you differently. Like you're not under that comedian secure little roof that you had before, because you have to think about a network. You have to think about shareholders. You have to think about this. When you're a comedian, you don't got to think about nobody, because you're putting up your own special. You're putting up this whole thing. You're doing everything technically on your own. As far as going into a sitcom or something like that, or even hosting, like I said, the Oscars. You have to think, and that is the wrong part about it, because again we go back to freedom of speech and what you want to talk about or what you want to do. It keeps going back to that. Why are they censoring these people? Because they speak their minds. Everybody, going back, Colin Kaepernick got blackballed. There's no way of going around that, because he wanted to speak his mind, because he wanted to give his opinion. Why is that okay?
That's a whole nother subject, because I don't think Colin Kaepernick got blackballed. Colin Kaepernick wasn't a top 32 quarterback. It wasn't a starting quarterback.
But not to be able to play at all in the NFL?
And when you go in there and say, I want starting quarterback money, but I'm not a starting quarterback, sorry, you don't get a job. Like, that's just how it goes. If he was willing to take a step back and be like, hey, I'll come off the bench and I'll take less money, different. But when you're going in there and say, nope, I want starting quarterback money and I want to start. And they're like, dude, you lost your job to Blaine Gabbert. That's who you lost your starting job to, Blaine Gabbert. You didn't play for sure what his last year and probably half of his year prior. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, you weren't a starting quarterback in the NFL. What do you expect?
But not to be able to play at all in the NFL.
He got job offers.
He got tryouts.
For who?
Baltimore Ravens
Ravens?
offered him
Okay.
something. Seattle Seahawks brought him in and offered him something. Those are the top 2 I can think of on my head. So we just diminish those and just say, oh, he got blackballed because that's only 2 out of 30 teams.
Okay, fair enough.
They
Got
did give
corrected.
him. They did give him, offers and.
And then that other league, the XFL, what was it that went crazy for a little bit? They offered him.
XFL.
Not the XFL, but the other one. What was the one?
Alliance something. I know what you're talking about. Like, but it's like it's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's not. It was only there for a few months, and everyone went crazy. I think it was only a month.
It was after
And-
the season ended, right?
Yeah, it was after the season ended, and there was like all those big hits, and like everyone loved it, and they went bankrupt. But they offered him position there too. He goes, "No, I want to get paid more money." So he's been offered positions. He's making it being a activist. Yes, which is fine. Like, I have no hate against that, but and to me too, another point would be his lawsuit that he filed and against the NFL. And
yeah.
If that's your point and you were blackballed by NFL, you should have walked out there with millions. He walked out there with very little. NFL said, "Okay, we'll just give you change and move on with your life."
So going back to the original topic, as far as it is sad that a lot of these people are being censored because, that's the whole point. You are somebody who shouldn't be censored. But then again, it goes back to shareholders, networks, all that kind of stuff that they have to look into, and you pretty much have to if you want to get paid. If you want to make money, if you want to...
Are you talking about just like for a major network? Because like we mentioned Daniel Tosh, right? He has a show, Comedy Central. He's been having it for years. I barely watch it, but I know he still has a show and he gets to say whatever he wants.
Again, he falls under... First of all, he's on a
What
TV.
about someone like Jimmy Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel takes such a strong stance against the president, and he gets no hate for it.
Oh,
And he
you
takes
think he doesn't
such
get
a
any
strong-
hate for
He
it.
has a job. Roseanne doesn't. Roseanne got kicked off of her own, literally her own show.
She got kicked out of her own show for, again, the racist part of it. Jimmy Kimmel is, again, still a comedian, and he has a talk show. You have to talk about what's going on in the world. So I feel like he still falls under that umbrella. It's okay, let's go ahead and let him, because obviously that's going to give you more views. Would you watch a show that was somebody just being racist the whole time?
But Roseanne, she wasn't racist, but she was her show. Didn't you kind of get the feeling that that's what she was kind of like? She was kind
Yeah,
of
like her show's always been comedy, like you
It's
said.
always been
She's
comedy.
always had a huge stand into politics. Her real life is standing up for so much. She's a huge voice. So we want to preach how all these people in the past, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King. There's so many people who stood up and spoke their mind. But today, can you calm that speaking up down, because we can't have you hurt anybody's feelings.
Well, they're trying to put something that is obviously there, which is racism, and they're trying to brush it underneath the rug. They're trying to make it where it doesn't come up. You can sit there and bash the president all you want on live TV, but if you say something that's racist, because supposedly racism is over with, it's not. It is still a thing in the United States. People do not like to sit there and think that that is still a thing, because that is something that happened, 1965. And I feel like a lot of people, again, the whole situation is they're trying to cover it up.
What Kevin Hart said had nothing to do with racism.
Yeah.
I didn't even, to be honest, I don't even know.
It
what
was
he
a
said.
tweet about his friends. I feel like he tweeted about his friends, like being, like he said something about them being gay, about doing something.
It was
right?
something like that. Uh-huh.
Right.
In a joking way, like he said it. Like you read that sentence and it was in a joking way, and yeah, they brought it back up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I just remember seeing his interview with Ellen, him talking about how he's seen people destroy, like I don't know if it's a group or certain people destroy other like comedians or actors like careers over something they've done in the past, and they brought it up to light. And he's like, I've seen that, and they told me watch out for this, and it happened to me. He's like, they tried to ruin my career, he said. So he's like, I'm just, standing for what, I believe, and letting people know. I've apologized before back then, and I'm apologizing again today. It's just so crazy how that spreads like wildfire in a matter of seconds even.
It's just crazy to me how we're we want to preach all day and people deserve second chances, but in reality, no one deserves a second chance because people make mistakes. I'm not saying I agree with what Roseanne said, but as essentially in her mind, I understand where she's coming from. Like, she's a comedian. This is what she does. She's made fun of people her whole entire life, just like Eminem has bashed people in his music, and we've never hated on him for it. She literally targets people specifically. She's a comedian. That's what she's done. I'm not saying I agree with what she said, but I am saying if she came out and she apologized and she said, I didn't mean that in any kind of racial way, she explained it in her own way. Why can't we forgive somebody for what they tweeted, when she's put a lifetime of her life on TV and essentially hasn't done much wrong in her whole entire life? She makes one mistake posting on social media and we doom her for it.
Something in the back channels that we don't know about. It's obviously what's going to look like. I mean, obviously they're going to lose money whenever she was kicked off the show. We don't know what that network or what those individuals in that office were thinking. The only thing I can say is I still think that it's one of those situations where they're trying to make of course, racism is bad, blah blah blah. They don't want to be tainted with that.
They don't want to be associated
with
right,
that.
And I get
and
that.
They don't
that's completely off of what we're talking about. I get that you have to go by what the audience is doing, right? And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about why, as an audience, what audience are we talking about? I get you got to do with the bit. If nobody would have reacted to the tweet, what was it? ABC, ABC wouldn't have cared. So it's not their morals. It's the audience's morals that's what it is. ABC, she could have said the tweet, and if it would have been nothing, ABC wouldn't have done nothing. So it didn't hurt ABC's morals. It hurt the audience's morals. That a comedian went and tweeted, made a joke, it was taken the wrong way. Fine, okay. She apologized for it, but audience didn't want to move on. So ABC now has to go. So that's out of the question because that's a business decision. Fine. But it's the question is why are we so hypocritical that we can sit down in Hollywood and watch the craziest, raunchiest stuff in the world and just let it pass? But other things, people make a mistake, and I'm not saying she was right for saying it, but we doom her whole entire career for it.
I mean, me speaking from my own personal opinion, it didn't affect me. So I mean, I'm not one of those that would fall under that category. I guess that would be me being angry at what she said or what she did. Yes, I don't believe it's fair. Yes, I don't believe it's right for her to say something like that. But at the end of the day, it brought up such a big deal that it caused her job. And unfortunately, when you are in the eye of the public, when you are in that, what they call radar at 100%, sometimes you do have to watch what you have to say. Sometimes you do have to censor yourself.
Yeah, and I think she's just held to, like celebrities in general are just held to a different pedestal.
Yeah.
As far as, just you and me or, having conversations, even in public, and someone hears, obviously, they have something to lose. And I guess that's how people kind of see it, and they want to
take it away.
Like, if they're attacking her, if they don't like her.
So as always,
stay fresh.
Stay hungry.
Stay driven.
And stay humble.